Alright, first off, let me just say this right out of the gate. I love my fiancé. The man's smart as hell, sweet, hilarious, just a genuinely good guy. A year and a half ago, I never would have pictured myself in the place I'm in now. We've been together 5 years, ever since we first met. He works at a call center, and I'm a postal carrier. We're doing okay financially, nothing fancy, just making ends meet. The wedding's loosely set for April. We're planning something small. A courthouse ceremony followed by a simple but nice reception. Now, before I go any further, let me just apologize for any legal mumbo-jumbo that slips in. I'm not a lawyer, I deliver mail. Half this stuff goes over my head, and honestly, he hasn't kept me in the loop like I wish he would've. About a year into us dating, he got this letter from the state he used to live in. It was a notice saying he might be the father of a 4-year-old boy. This obviously happened way before I came into the picture. He thought the whole thing was nonsense, but he went ahead and took the court-ordered DNA test anyway. And surprise, surprise, it came back positive. Yep, he's the dad. Cue dramatic reality show reaction. The kid's mom had some serious mental health issues, from what I understand, and the boy had ended up living with his grandparents. They basically said they'd adopt the child if my fiancé gave up all his parental rights. He didn't hesitate, he said yes right away. Apparently, they had some pull, because even though I heard that kind of process is normally complicated, we just hopped a flight to his old state, signed some documents in front of a judge, and it was done. Just like that. I'll be honest, I felt kind of weird about the whole thing. It looked like he handed over his rights without a second thought. But in the end, I figured it was his decision to make. I told myself that if the kid ever showed up one day looking for answers, I'd be there for him as a supportive stepmom. Then things got messy. The state wanted child support payments to cover the years the mother was on welfare. He wouldn't tell me much, barely anything really, but I know they're saying he owes around 20 grand. For 3 years. Wild, right? Fast forward a couple of years, I'm dragging him to the DMV because his license is way expired, and he just keeps putting it off. Turns out, it's suspended. Why? Another backdated child support case. This time, for a 14-year-old girl. And this one? $30,000. He was physically sick. I mean, literally throwing up all night. And, because his license got suspended, he had to call up the child support office in his old state, confirm all his current info, where he works, where he lives, the whole deal. Didn't take long after that before HR hit him with a notice. They're gonna start garnishing 45% of his take-home pay because of the support judgment. After that, he basically shut down. Won't talk about it, won't answer questions, nothing. I ended up covering more bills, but it's been rough. Real rough. We had to downsize to a smaller, crappier apartment, and since his credit is wrecked, we're using mine for everything. He even had to refinance his car, almost had it paid off, but the payments were too high to keep up with. Now, there's some sort of hearing coming up. I honestly have no idea what it's about, because he flat out refuses to tell me. I think it might be to rework the payment amount now that he's gotten a small raise, but I'm guessing. He hasn't bought plane tickets for it, or even asked me to help. My gut says he's not planning to go. And if he skips it, there'll be another default judgment slapped on him. Here's the kicker. He could request a DNA test for the girl. He's always insisted he's not the dad. But he hasn't taken that step. I even offered to pay for a lawyer to help him, and he shut that down too. Says it'd have to be someone from his old state, and they'd bleed him dry because he's not local. Excuse after excuse after excuse. The hearing's in 3 weeks. And I'm flying blind. He's so checked out, so passive about everything, that I'm starting to panic. A while back, I opened one of those official-looking envelopes he'd just left lying around unopened. Guess what I found? There's a 3rd kid. Yeah, this one's the boy's half-brother, related to the girl. So now I'm wondering if this hearing's not about her at all, but about him. I just don't know. And when I tried to bring it up with my fiancé a few weeks ago, he didn't say a word. Just grabbed his coat and left the house for hours. I'm not the type to nag. I hate this crap too. But someone's gotta do something. I'm starting to feel like I'm at a breaking point. If it gets to where I have to give him an ultimatum, that's the end of the road for us. And I'm almost there. Look, I love him. I really do. But he's got 60 grand of debt hanging over his head from 2 of these kids. And the worst part is, he won't lift a finger to deal with it. Just pretends like none of it's happening. Maybe he's depressed, I don't know. On the outside, he acts like everything's fine. But we could be facing even more debt if this third kid leads to another case. If I stay, I'll never be able to buy a house. Everything we'd ever need to finance, cars, loans, a mortgage, will fall on my credit alone. Our incomes can't be combined. Not like this. He's walked away from 3 kids. I don't know the full backstory with any of the mothers, other than it sounds like all of those relationships were filled with drama, pain, and dishonesty. One of the kids is definitely his biologically. The other 2? Still up in the air. But as far as the state is concerned, that doesn't matter, he's on the hook. And truthfully, he doesn't seem to care about any of them, outside of the paycheck hit every 2 weeks. From what I can tell, he's never asked a single question about them. Last month, I had a bit of a pregnancy scare. Actually, it turned out I was pregnant, but I had a miscarriage before I even realized what was going on. No need for sympathy, seriously. I never told him. It felt like it was over before it began. But I'll tell you what thought hit me right away. If that baby had made it, my child would have been number 4 in line when it came to support. And if things ever went bad between us, what's to say he wouldn't walk away from me too? We've talked about having kids one day. Now, I'm not so sure. I still love this man with everything in me. But the logical part of my brain is screaming that I'd be throwing away my entire financial future if I stay. I'm torn. Baby number 1, a 4-year-old boy. He signed away parental rights so the grandparents could adopt him because the mother wasn't mentally stable. He still owes $25,000 in back child support. Baby number 2, a 14-year-old girl. Ongoing child support already hit $35,000. I still have no real idea what happened here because he won't tell me. Baby number 3, younger brother of the 14-year-old. I saw the kid's birth date on the legal paperwork, but my fiancé grabbed that letter and took off with it. I showed him the letter I opened about the 3rd child. Thankfully, he didn't blow up about the fact that I opened his mail, because I wasn't in the mood for that either. When he saw the letter, his face just crumbled. He insisted there was no way he could be the dad of this 3rd kid. Claimed he had no idea this was even a thing because, surprise, he hasn't been opening his mail from child support services. He told me the mother of the 14-year-old had already gotten a judgment against him, and now she was clearly just trying to dig deeper. I told him flat out that sounded like BS. I told him I'd been looking into the laws in his old state, and there's no way the court just slapped him with a judgment without some kind of proof. But he went into that same shutdown mode, said none of it mattered, that the judgment was in, and his life was basically over. Then he actually broke down crying. I kept pushing. I needed the truth. Eventually, he opened up. He said he and the girl's mother had been on again, off again since they were teenagers. It was messy, but he was in love with her. She got pregnant, and he tried to do the right thing. But right before the baby was born, she told him he wasn't the father. Still, he was too proud, or maybe too heartbroken, to walk away entirely. So he signed the birth certificate anyway. Not long after, she asked him to leave. He did. And he never looked back. Why didn't he get a DNA test? Said it was too expensive at the time, and his heart just couldn't take it. By the end of it, we were both crying. And I told him the truth, just like he'd finally told me his. I can't go through with this wedding. Not right now. Not with everything that's going on. And man, he flipped. Went from devastated to furious in a second. Kept asking how I could do this to him. Said I already knew about the child support stuff going in, that he'd always been honest with me. Except, no. He hadn't. He gave me a heavily edited version of the truth. That's not the same. He said the girl's mom was out to destroy his life, and that by not standing by him, I was just helping her do it. Said the courts always side with the mother anyway, so what was the point? It was over. He couldn't fight it. That everything falling apart was her fault, and now mine, too. Honestly, I wish I could say I came back with some clever one-liners. But I don't think well when I'm emotional. I told him how badly he was handling everything, how shutting me out was only making things worse. I told him that if he kept brushing this off, it could lead to jail time. But even as I said it, I felt like my words were falling flat. You ever rehearse these conversations in your head and then totally choke in real life? Yeah, that was me. Then, out of nowhere, he asked if this was about that male coworker I gave a ride home like 3 months ago. Accused me of cheating. Seriously? What the hell? That's when I took off the ring, his grandmother's, and handed it back. I told him he needed to pack up and stay somewhere else for a while. The wedding was off. I needed space to think about whether this whole relationship was even worth saving. He just kept asking why, like he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I was calling it off over something as small as $50,000 in debt, 3 surprise children, and him completely shutting me out of it all. Then he called me shallow, said I cared more about money than I did about love. It kept going, but I'm honestly worn out even typing this. He swears up and down there are no more surprise kids out there. That this is it. For real this time. He packed a duffel and left. And as far as he's concerned, I'm either cheating on him or I'm some heartless, money-obsessed monster. I was also knee-deep in apartment listings. Since the lease is in my name because of all those judgments sitting on his credit report, I figured I'd better start thinking about next steps. God, when did I become the person lying to landlords to cover for her deadbeat fiancé? Whatever. He probably has some kind of tenant rights just from living here, but at least for now he's gone. That's something. About an hour ago, I sent him a long text. It said, Andy, before we even think about building a life together, I need to know you can show up and take care of your responsibilities like a grown man. Go to the hearing. I'll help you with a lawyer, with plane tickets, whatever you need. If you treat me like a partner, maybe we can rebuild what we had. I love you. He hasn't responded. I'm hoping once he cools down, he'll come around and start thinking clearly. He's not all bad, hell, he's got a lot of really great qualities. I know I've had to paint the worst picture of him here, but that's because I'm trying to be honest. If he wanted to be part of his kids' lives, I think he'd actually make a good father. But he's convinced himself that his life is completely screwed and now he's frozen. Just stuck. And that kind of fear, it's paralyzing. I know a lot of folks were telling me to drop him, to run for the hills, and maybe they're right. But deep down, I'm still holding onto a little hope. I'm hoping this break gives him a wake-up call. That he sees what he's about to lose and decides to fight for it. And if he does step up, if he actually attends that hearing, gets himself on a payment plan and sticks to it, then we can talk. That would just be step 1. After that, it'd be relationship counseling. A whole lot of it. And even then, I don't know if I'd want to get back together. But at least he'd be sorting his life out. Maybe I'm just clinging to the idea of the man I thought he could be. Anyway, that's where things stand. I really wish I'd had some clever mic drop moment during our fight, but let's be real, life isn't a movie. I said what I could. Now it's his move. Let's see if he steps up, or just keeps running. Has anyone else ever been through something like this? I know I blindsided him a little, but truthfully, I'd been way too passive about all of this for way too long. So now I'm asking, how do you even help someone who refuses to help themselves? I've finally got something resembling the truth about baby mama number 1, called off the wedding, and told him our future hinges on him going to his child support hearing and taking responsibility. Still no word from him. No reply to the text where I offered help. So I called the landlord and asked them to change the locks. Technically, it might not be legal, since he's been living here, but someone pointed out he's terrified of court, so odds are he won't do anything about it. People have had strong reactions to this whole mess, and I get it. Maybe I wasn't super clear earlier. The wedding? That's off. I gave back his grandmother's ring. Told him to leave. And he's gone. And it's a big if he accepts help, takes responsibility, and starts handling his obligations without slipping back into denial, then I'll consider if he's worth a second chance. I'm not talking about jumping straight into marriage again. I'm not completely out of my mind, and I'm definitely not looking to get pregnant right now. But considering it's now morning, and he still hasn't responded to the one olive branch I offered, it probably doesn't matter anymore. Once I returned his grandmother's ring and told him the wedding was off, he packed up a duffel bag with some clothes and left. That was about a month ago. Haven't heard a word since. I went ahead and changed the locks. He hasn't come back for the rest of his stuff anyway. He blocked me on Facebook. A week after he left, I cracked and tried calling him, but he'd already changed his number. From what I've gathered, he's been staying at his best bro's place. Well, technically, at best bro's girlfriend's house. Yeah, that checks out. I've gone through all the usual stages: denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, acceptance. Eventually, I had to come to terms with the fact that he wasn't coming back. At one point, I even thought maybe he'd gone back to his home state to reconnect with one of the baby mamas. But then I drove past his work, maybe more than once, and his car was still parked right there. His child support hearing was scheduled for earlier this week. And tonight, I finally got the guts to go over to Best Bro's place to confront him. I figured the least he could do is collect his damn stuff. I grabbed a pile of unopened child support letters he left behind, plus this one photo of baby number 1 that he had sitting on his dresser. It's the only picture of any of his kids he owns, and he didn't even take it with him. When I knocked, Best Bro opened the door, and let me tell you, what followed was peak awkward. I can't remember the entire conversation word for word, but it went something like this. I asked where my ex-fiancé was. Best Bro got real cagey. Said he wasn't there. So I asked the obvious, did he even go to his hearing? Best Bro just stared at me, totally lost. What hearing? I explained. It was the child support hearing. For the 3 kids. You'd think that would have rung a bell. Instead, he just looked at me like I was the crazy one. Then, this part really threw me. He asked if I was seeing anyone else. I said of course not, and gave him the super short version of the story. I kicked Andy out because he was ignoring all his child support obligations, and he had a hearing this week. At that point, I started raising my voice because, let's face it, I'd been bottling this up for way too long. That's when Best Bro's girlfriend came out to see what the noise was. And she goes, totally deadpan. Your man lost his damn mind. Apparently, the weekend after I kicked him out, Andy and Best Bro went out drinking, your classic, woe is me, women are the worst kind of night. He met some 44-year-old bartender there. And I guess they really hit it off. Because they got married. Last weekend. Drove to Reno and did the whole cheesy wedding chapel thing. Best Bro and his girlfriend were their witnesses. They didn't exactly cheer him on for the whole marriage stunt, but from what I gathered, he managed to convince them I was just some cheating, heartless witch who broke his poor, innocent heart. Best Bro's girlfriend hinted later that he'd basically worn out his welcome crashing at their place for close to a month. So I guess they were ready to be rid of him, one way or another. I was standing there, feeling a mix of shock and fury, and honestly just about ready to cry. What really got to me was that it seemed like Best Bro still believed I'd cheated. That's what stung. So I went out to my car, grabbed the court papers, child support documents, official stuff from his old state, and handed them to Best Bro, told him to pass them along to Andy. Doubt they'll even bother opening them, but hey, they've got the state seal and everything. Let the evidence speak. Part of me wonders why I even care what those 2 think. Neither one of them ever called to check on me during any of this mess. I really thought we were all friends. Turns out, they chose sides, and it wasn't mine. Now I'm back home, sitting in this apartment surrounded by his leftover junk, trying to make sense of it all. Feels like I just watched a guy blast through every possible warning sign, floor it past the bridge out signs, and launch himself straight off the edge. I offered to help him, to get a lawyer, cover the flight, whatever it took to show up for that hearing. And instead, he ran off and married some girl he met like 2.5 weeks ago? Maybe 3? I don't have the energy to look at a calendar right now. Either way, it's wild. And yeah, part of me wants to feel bad for her, his new wife. Seriously, what the hell? Because she has no idea what she's walked into. But then again, she either has zero judgment or she's just as messy as he is. Who marries a guy they met a handful of days ago? And before anyone chimes in with girl, he had to have known her before. He was definitely cheating. I'm gonna stop you right there. No, he wasn't. I'd stake good money on it. He's a homebody through and through. There was no weird missing time, no odd behavior, nothing like that. Best bro made it pretty clear they met at the bar that night. So unless he had a secret teleportation device, this was a fast-track disaster. So yeah, while he should have been facing his child support mess like a grown man, he was off shacking up with some new girl and playing newlywed. Great priorities. Do I wish them happiness? Oh, totally. That's sarcasm, by the way. In case the universe needed clarification. I guess my next stop is the legal advice subreddit to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with all the crap he left behind. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a warrant out now for skipping the hearing. Contempt of court's a real thing. I doubt he'd sue me over tossing his stuff, but I still want to cover my bases. I know I'm supposed to end with a question, so here it is. What was he even thinking? Out of all the paths he could have taken, he sprinted down the absolute worst one. And her, what was she thinking? I mean, I love the guy. I still do, in a way. But I'm not blind, he's not some dreamy catch. He's got a barely above minimum wage job, zero stability, and a mountain of debt and drama. No home of his own. Nothing to offer but a broken story. And the kicker? Even after all this, I still feel sick that he's found a brand new way to blow up his life. Why does it still hurt? Why do I care? He married someone else within weeks of me calling off the wedding, and now I'm left here, wondering why and why it still hits so hard.